I am coming through on Discord. Yep, very good. Okay, all right, cool. Matt is in Japan, and he's going to be representing us at WebEx. Um, and so you guys are stuck with me today. Love it. Hope everyone's doing good. Now we'll blast through this again. Matt's doing some great stuff in Japan, doing the boots on the ground and representing us at the largest conference in Japan itself. We were cordially invited by contacts I met while at ETH Denver from the Coin Post. So that's the largest media outlet in Japan for crypto. So shout out to Coin Post for the invite. Really appreciate that. Specific thanks to Sora, who I've been working with for a couple months now. Yes, sir. Good to see you as well, Kishore. And of course, Matt will be back probably this time next week. I'm not exactly sure of his travel schedule. You might have me next week again, but for the time being, I am here to help out, and we'll rock through this AMA together. I'm currently pinging Dr. K. We're going to get him up here, get started, and answer all of your questions. In the meantime, of course, we're broadcasting this on both Discord and Twitter, and so I'm going to be monitoring mostly the Discord chat. However, if you are on Twitter, you are listening to us first. Hello. And second, if you have any comments or any questions, please feel free to drop those there. Of course, we're going to be mostly on Discord, but I will make an active effort, of course, to take a look at anyone commenting on Twitter as well. And for the replay, of course, you can go back to it at any time on Twitter. And that's why we, cross post on both. So this way you can have that recording and come back to this whenever you actually need. Let's make a tweet about them so we can interact. Makes sense about the Japanese guys. Yeah, we can do something to that effect. I think we're going to have something when he's actually on the ground, scheduled and lined up to actually announce it. And I think he's also going to be meeting View Hero from our communities, our Japanese ambassador over there. It's going to be really good. I think his name is Nakanishi, if I got that pronunciation correct, but yeah, they'll be boots on the ground together. We're representing Quai at the biggest the Japanese conference, period. It's going to be pretty great. So just bear with us for a couple moments, guys. Good to see everybody. Have everyone pile on in. We're going to get Dr. K up here, answer any and all of your questions. Will he be doxxed? Probably not. Either throw a little, blur on his face, or maybe his hands will be doxxed. Who knows? Get his hands in the picture. Everyone's holding their badge or something to that effect. Yeah, no, I asked him to get media. It's there are some guys that are really great at making sure they get photographs and stuff. I am not one of those guys, neither is Matt, and so I made an active effort, very candidly, so to remind him to take photographs. Sometimes, you just get caught up in the moment, you just completely forget. But this way we can get some good promotion material for everybody. We can also show our support for our Japanese community, and then obviously, show that we're on the ground. He went there with a bunch of merch also, not only I think to give it Nakanishi, but also like flyers, other handouts, business cards, which are cool. It's kind of funny because in crypto you don't see business cards at all. In fact, the only time I see them is when I'm interacting with more like Web2 BTC kind of people. But it does kind of make sense to have them since everyone doesn't have business cards. Why not utilize those? So Nakanishi, I hope when you meet Matt, you love his presence as much as we do over here. It's great, awesome support to have. Really great guy. Bear with me for a second. I am working on getting Dr. K in the building. In the meantime, if you're on Twitter, go ahead and like and reshare, and tell your friends and family, because this is the AMA to go to. I'm here, I'm hosting, so you don't want to miss this one. It's gonna be action packed. In the meantime, while we're waiting to get Dr. K in here, I want to go ahead and just remind everybody that we have a official partnership with Tangem. So our Tangem partnership, our wallet pre-sales are now live. It's limited stock. There's only a couple left. There's about 400, a little over 400 left, and this is the only print that will ever occur for this wallet. So this is one of those memorabilia. This is one of those sentimental items, those things that, again, once they're sold out, they're never going to be available ever again. And you'll be able to look back on it years from now and be like, yeah, I have the original Tangem Quai wallet. You can call it first edition too, to impress your friends and family, maybe even that girl you're trying to go after. Right, first edition Tangem Quai wallet. I mean, sounds really great. Yeah, their team's really awesome. We've been working with them for months and months and months, actually. And so it was really good to see them in the big lights in Vegas and see their advertisements out there in the wild. And also, we had them on just last week to talk about Tangem, the functionality that goes along with it, the reasons why to buy it, but then also just to say hello to the community, show you that we're doing some pretty big things here behind the scenes. Really appreciate those questions, Kishore. Yeah, we'll get around to it in just a couple minutes while we get Dr. K in here. So yeah, don't forget to go buy a Tangem wallet. I'll also speak directly for a second. There's Dr. K about the Quai Nation. And so, guys, obviously with our partnership with Collabland having rolled out just this last month, we have stood up the official Quai Nation. So using the Collabland integration, thank you, Kishore. Using the Collabland integration, you will be able to join the Quai Nation, and simply all you have to do is connect to the bot itself, and then verify your wallet has one Quai in it. And of course, if you didn't know, which you should know, but if you didn't know, if you sign up to Kipper.money, we actually give you 20 Quai to get started. And so if you want just a quick, easy way to join the Quai Nation and use, of course, the flagship best app on Quai, definitely head over to Kipper.money and go ahead and get started. You'll be able to join right away, and then you simply just connect that same wallet to the bot, the Collabland bot, and you'll be able to join the Quai Nation. We're going to have some pretty special things rolling out pretty soon for the Quai Nation as well, including a founder's fireside, a personal one for the Quai Nation itself. So stay tuned for all of that. So we've got Dr. K up here. What's going on, Dr. K? How we doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Can I just want to double check?
Are we live on Twitter and whatnot?
Yes, sir. Should be.
You made the announcement in the Discord channel as well.
Dr. K, you know how we roll. Absolutely. We've got all bases covered.
Just checking, man.
Yes, sir. Nope. Always valid. But we're good to go. And we're rolling. And Veronica's sending me a message saying that sound is good. So rock and roll. Love it. Before we jump in, how we doing? How you doing today, sir? How's life? How's the how things behind the scenes? How's the vibe going right now?
Trying to fix Monero today.
Only big ticket items for Dr. K. You hear it here first, guys. He's taking on the biggest problem of all right now, and that's Monero, and that's Cubic. And I'll admit, it's while a rather hostile and I would say not so sanctimonious or altruistic endeavor by the Cubic community, is very interesting. And it's kind of fun to see. It's kind of fun to follow along with. And if you aren't taking a look at that, we've done a couple spaces on that pretty recently, and there's some news articles, and it's basically all over CT right now of how Cubic is making moves on Monero. So Dr. K looking to utilize, the innovative technology we've built over here to fix that problem. And, I tip my hat to that. So that's cool. It's good to see that you're staying busy and, doing the big stuff. Speaking of big stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a marketing thing. So just so people know, the issue with Monero is just getting attacked by Cubic. You can say that it's like a liveness attack. You can say that it's a selfish mining attack. Personally, I think, they were trying to do like a malicious liveness attack on Monero, and then some people in the Monero community started like threatening come from behind, or whoever he is, from Cubic. And it went from him saying that it was a malicious liveness attack to a selfish mining demonstration. But either way, the whole point of work shares is that it prevents sub 51% like attacks on work networks. So just trying to get people to realize that more broadly and what we've like innovated here at Quai. So I'm just trying to put up a commit that adds work shares to Monero. I mean, a little bit. I have it working at a single node. I have the thing doing P2P, but I'm having some issue with like processing of certain block types with shares when they're transmitted from one node to another. So I'm digging into that. Once I get that fixed, I'm going to put up a PR. And like I said, it's really just a marketing thing to get people more aware of kind of the innovations and proof of work that we've brought to bear with Quai and how those are practically, useful, right? Because it would prevent Cubic from doing what Cubic's doing.
PvP marketing. Is this a whole new era of crypto?
I mean, kind of. I don't know. I'm also making like an open source contribution to Monero, but
I mean, think about Ethereum. Wasn't that technically PvP marketing all the way back in the day versus Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean that it's good to make open source contributions, but I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't like. Well, I mean, okay, so if I didn't have other things to do, if it wasn't potentially a marketing thing for Quai, I wouldn't take my time to do it. I'll put it that way. If I had nothing else in the world to do or like excess time to contribute and I wasn't working on Quai, I would potentially also do it. But the reason I'm doing it right now is for marketing. So, yeah. But it will fix their problems if they adopt it. So, and hopefully it'll bring more awareness to Quai. That's like the point.
Yeah. No, the tip of the hat, definitely. Solving the world's problems one hurdle at a time. I love that. Cool.
Yeah, that guy is like fucking nuts, by the way.
Well, he reminds me a little bit of Do Kwon in the sense that he's just very caustic and he's very just inflammatory. While simultaneously he's got these like broader, bigger moves, right? Like he's trying to do a little bit of a Do Kwon.
Well, I've actually I don't know if I've ever talked to you about like chain wars, but like chain wars are a thing. And like the dominant strategy is that chains like will go to war at some point. Maybe this is like the beginning of it.
I better make sure I stay on my gym schedule then. We're at war. Yeah, facetiousness aside, I've mostly been contributing to like larger, projects in the space. So like QuickNode for infrastructure, Lido for liquid staking. There was a little bit of competition, obviously, with other liquid staking providers, but this would be it's pretty interesting behind the scenes at a blockchain, right?
Well, because like fundamentally with blockchains, it's there's kind of like a statement about money, which is money works better the more people that use it, right? So for anyone that's like actually trying to contribute value in this world of blockchains and crypto and trying to, create value, they're trying to maximize the number of users. So there is room for multiple chains, but like not that many. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Well, I'll tell you what. So I appreciate where we're at. I actually want to, because I agree with you. It's going to be a very fun next couple of months with this narrative right now. But why don't we hop in? Why don't we table the war for now and we fight the internal war? So we've got questions. We've got technical heads in the audience that are very interested in getting some answers here about what we're doing. Maybe we can return back to this topic a little bit later, but. Because when all is said and done, it's a lot of war in the world, and right now I'm just trying to build for peace. All right. Kishore has obviously shout out to Kishore. Kishore, you're great, and especially for compiling questions, keeping this and on hand and providing these. And so his first question is actually pretty interesting because it's actually more of a marketing question. It's more of a positioning question. So I'd love to hear your take on this, Dr. K. So Kishore asks, can we say that Quai changes are a Bitcoin-style halving system where Quai's reward and exchange rate will systematically decrease? It's not a permanent schedule like Bitcoin's. It's just a protocol adjustment that can be changed again in the future. So I have a thought there, but I'm curious your take on that.
So he's kind of talking about like this update that we've made. So yeah. Sorry, I'm just getting Twitter logged on to. Yeah. So the whole idea is okay. So let's try to unwind this a little bit. So the controller that we have between Quai and Qi is correct. It has been correct. The problem is the market in the controller. I should say the underlying assumptions for the controller is that you have a rational, efficient market between Quai and Qi, which we do not. So the problem is without that rational, efficient market, the controller isn't doing really what the controller is supposed to be doing. So we needed to sort of like adjust its behavior because without Qi being a rational market, you wouldn't really see deflationary behavior. So what we've done is we've sort of readjusted the current like KQuai emissions back to what it was at the sort of launch of the network. And what that effectively is going to do is it's going to make it so that people will not like want to touch Qi unless they're using Qi. So in shocking the market like that, effectively we're decoupling Quai and Qi for now. So then Qi will basically stand on its own. So if people want Qi, they can use Qi. They can we'll potentially get like a market set up in USDT for Qi. And once that market kind of matures on its own, what will end up happening over time is that the controller will eventually reprice them to be economically viable once like the coupling will become economically viable. And once that economic viability recouples, then like the controller returns to kind of where it was today. But that's under sort of a more mature Qi market. So basically like Quai and Qi are functionally decoupled, at least from an economic standpoint, until the Qi market matures. That's kind of like what we've done. We didn't actually have to change the controller. We've just shocked the system out of equilibrium such that only until Qi becomes mature will they recouple. That's like effectively what we did. I know that's a little bit complicated of an answer, but like unfortunately that's the answer. So the other piece that we put in here is we want to make sure that that decoupling remains for a bit. So we've put in a few more shocks to the system. That will encourage maturity in Qi, and it'll also create deflationary characteristics in Quai, ideally spurring some degree of what we might think as endogenous growth. And so with that, you'll get more market participants, you'll get more capital, and ideally you'll get more efficient markets.
Yeah, on the note of efficient markets, Matt is working on a bot right now to help usher in a more mature Qi response, a more mature Qi ARB process.
Well, so right now we're basically just decoupling it though. So like when the shock happens on Monday, like they'll functionally be economically decoupled. Like you can still use the protocol exchange rate, you just won't want to.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it will allow Qi to like develop like ideally maturity independently. So that's really what we're going to focus on is building demand use cases and markets of Qi, and then creating events that create profitable sort of opportunities with Qi. So
we actually had a pretty extended conversation yesterday about like some of the game theory, and you know, from a content marketing perspective, we're thinking about actually putting some pieces out there. Because to your point, I think a couple weeks back, people don't realize the opportunity that's in front of them, and maybe that's on us, right? It's on me, it's on BDM team. Maybe we put some content out to kind of illustrate this and kind of explain the nuances that are available.
Well, to like be very direct. What's happening in the short term, like in a very like direct way, is that the emissions of Quai are going to drop, and the emissions of Quai will continue to drop over the next 8 months. But the reason we're doing that is in service of developing the Chi market. So it's also going to create deflationary price pressure, which is good. But yeah, that's what the update's doing.
Love that. Yeah. Very cool. Lots of content coming out about that as well. I appreciate that.
So it's really great. I guess go back to like Peter's point. Like the point here is to get endogenous growth to bootstrap the two markets. It isn't to like continuously do the sort of thing. Once the markets are bootstrapped, the system should do exactly what the system's supposed to do.
I'm gonna follow up
without like feature intervention.
Endogenous growth is valiant. Appreciate that. I'm going to follow up since we're on the same topic. Kishore says that someone from the community has asked, does the new fork choice rule change the expected uncle rate dynamics for the smaller pools?
The new fork choice rule. What are we talking about?
Yeah, could you ask that person then, Kishore, to expand on the new fork choice rule and what he means by that?
We didn't update like the fork choice rule. It's updated.
So uncle rate dynamics should not change at all then?
No, what we did is we hardened against cubic like style attacks. So well, I would say cubic like 51% attacks, more specifically, right? Cubic with sub 51%. But basically what we've done is we've made it so that it becomes much more difficult, if not impossible, for a 51% actor to successfully execute an attack that causes the exchanges and the mining pools to end up on different forks. So that's part of like what we did. Proof work networks are getting attacked, right? So that statement would be, if you got a more than 51% attacker, they could still like mine empties, effectively like do a liveness attack on the chain. But if the fix we put in like works as anticipated, they would never be able to get a double spend through.
Staying on the same topic, great answer. Appreciate the context there. Another question. So Kishore is asking, by capping reorg depth with the function zone horizon threshold, we're essentially trading off some reorg flexibility for stronger finality guarantees.
Well, yeah. So what we're saying basically is we would like the exchanges to actually have like longer finality windows, but we can only influence them so much. So they've decided that their finality window is 60 blocks. So we're making it such that kind of the chain's finality window is 60 blocks. So it's not necessarily about like the trade-off in chain. It's really just about matching the exchanges. Because the practicality of a double spend is that it would happen through an exchange.
Right.
So we're just matching that to what the exchanges are running.
Yeah, adhering to industry standard. That makes sense.
Well, it's not even industry standard. It's just like if you were to try to double spend the chain, any chain, like you're going to do it through an exchange. Like that's how, that's part of the double spend attack. So as long as the finality window of the chain and the exchanges matches, you can't do it.
Perfect. Yeah, that tracks. Kishore is following up about the miners and how miners are reacting. He says, how do you expect miners to react to the scheduled ratio reductions every 2 months? Do you anticipate a steady reallocation of hash or sharp swings around the cut dates? How do you see it playing out?
Well, so we haven't really heard anything from miners broadly. I will say that the GPU market is very mercenary. There's just some people that have committed hash Quai and they're like long-term believers. But there's also like a lot of elastic mercenary hash rate. And what we see with those guys is they just do what like makes them the most money. So what would end up happening, there's like two sort of things that take place. One is with fewer emissions, there should be price appreciation. With price appreciation, hash should go up. With cutting the emissions, that will cause hash to go down. But then it should also then simultaneously cause the price to go up, which then would cause hash to go back up. So all in all, I think it's like a growth strategy in both price and hash, maybe with some discontinuities.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting dynamic, but yeah, like you said, it's very much all about the profit, right? Really quick, let me pause for a second. Just ask a side question on X. Could you accept a speaker role, and we can get you up there? Just mute your mic on X. On this way, we can have you on stage as a speaker over there.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, appreciate that. We'll pause. Just let you do that before I hit you with.
Well, it's gonna take me a minute.
Yeah, no worries.
Go to the next question.
In the meantime, yeah, we'll follow up on that. So Kishore is going to stay on the same theme with this next question. So he asks, the controller design assumes rational miners stop mining chi below $1. But if miners act irrationally, how resilient is the system to temporary irrational flows before the controller rebalances? Great question.
Yeah, so again, it's like efficient markets. So the resiliency isn't like the controller. The resiliency is how many like efficient market participants there are. So if one market participant does something that's irrational, the other market participants can make money. So you can't like say what it is from a controller perspective because it's not like the controller that's doing it; it's the market participant.
Right. The rational actors will balance it out, basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So like anytime somebody does something irrational, there's money to be made, and it's going to be the irrational actor paying the rational.
Following up with that is if arbitrageurs are expected to step in when chi falls below the cost of production, how have we modeled the depth and speed of arbitrage capacity? What if market liquidity for chi isn't deep enough to restore parity quickly?
It's dynamic to the flows. So the sort of depth of the book is based off the volatility as well as like the existing flows. So we don't like set depth. It's something that emerges from market participants. So it automatically adjusts. So with that adjustment, it should always, again, achieve efficiency given rational participants.
The what if questions are always the most fun. The hypotheticals, the edge case scenarios. That's a really good answer. And these are all extremely important because those are the ones that in the end will get you, right? So it's cool that we've done that. It sounds like we have modeled the depth and speed of arbitrage capacity.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's based off the it's based off again volatility and like previous flows. So it adjusts according to like what the market thinks it should be in aggregate.
Hope that answered the question for you, Kishore. Give you a little light there. Appreciate that. If you're listening on Twitter, don't forget to follow us. Give us a like. Give us a retweet. This is our weekly, our bi-weekly AMA with Dr. K. Has a good ring to it. And don't forget, I'll take this moment before we move on to a different topic here. Don't forget to get a Tangent wallet, guys. It's almost about 400, I think, left at this point. And there'll never be another first edition series like this. The first one's out there. Kishore does have another follow-up. Okay, I was going to shift gears. Actually, why don't we stay on topic? Asks, with miners now choosing allocation, does that reduce reliance on arbitrageurs to defend Qi's peg, or do the arbitrageurs remain the primary stabilizer when Qi trades below $1?
Arbitrage is the primary stabilizer.
Right on. With more miners mining Qi, that does contribute though to the stabilization of Qi below $1, but it's still primarily the arbitrageurs that will stabilize it. Is that correct? Is my line of thinking correct there? Or is that incorrect?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Sure. Yeah. So miners, obviously the incentives to move them to mine Qi more. Will that help, essentially stabilize the price in its own, but the primary stabilizer will still remain the arbitrageurs? In other words, do the miners help contribute to that?
Yeah, no, I mean, miners do, but the primary force with the mature market is the speculators.
Makes sense. Yeah, that tracks. Okay. So a little bit of extra nuance there. They will help, but again, it's still just a rational market will have the arbitrageurs ensuring that as being the main stabilizer there. So cool. Kishore, just on this subject, I love it, man. So he follows up. How does the controller calculate real-time emission adjustments when hash disproportionately flows into Quai? It's actually asking about the mechanics there. Is it deterministic per epoch or smoothed across multiple blocks?
Yeah, it's smoothed over like a 4,000 block trailing window. But ultimately the thing is the contribution to the miner imbalance is relatively light. The primary driver is the price imbalance, which is the speculators. So if there's this constant imbalance, there's a negative, drift, but it's pretty small. It's 20 bips by the imbalance. And then the primary would be the signal of people converting. That's a much more powerful mechanism in the controller.
That's perfect. Perfect. Sure, with the copy pasta questions coming in, I swear to God, you're going fast, my friend. Are you an AI?
Yeah. So if we talk about Quai and Qi a little bit more, right? There's this very long-term point, which is how much does the market sort of preference Quai to Qi or Qi to Quai in terms of total amounts? Do they want more Quai? Do they want more Qi? Right? If Qi obviously has utility with relative stability, cash-like privacy properties, that's a certain market demand, and then Quai with deflationary monetary policy and EVM compatibility, that's a certain amount of market demand. The thing is, the protocol doesn't know what the relative demand is of each one, and so that's why in the protocol we don't set a prescribed ratio, but that imbalance piece over a very long time frame, maybe multiple months, kind of sets a ratio. So you can kind of think about that as or to make an analogy to the current financial system. It's the interest rate. There's an analogy to be had there. So, but instead of having a committee like set the interest rate, it sort of sets itself by the relative demand. Little bit hard to describe that one, but yeah, it adjusts basically to what the market demands relative to Pi and Chi.
No, I mean that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, that tracks. Awesome. Ingenious, by the way. I would just say, obviously, I joined the team this year, but there's been just a tremendous amount of thought and theory crafting and scenario driving behind this. So yeah, very, very awesome. Very good to hear that. Still staying on the same topic, Kishore asked another follow-up. Does the new update effectively mean that when Quai emissions drop, miners reallocate hash towards Chi, which then lowers Quai difficulty and restores profitability? Or is that an oversimplification? I can hit that again.
Hey, you still there?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
You broke up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can ask that one again. Yeah, not a problem. Basically just talking about when Quai emission drops, what's the incentive here? So he says, does the new update effectively mean that when Quai emissions drop, miners reallocate hash towards Chi, which would then lower the Quai difficulty and restore profitability? Or is that just an oversimplification?
So like, look, the purpose of these is to decouple. So basically what's going to happen is it will be a losing proposition to convert Chi to Quai for this foreseeable future. So the reason that you want to create Quai at this point isn't for arbitrage opportunities, it's because you want to use Quai. And we're going to take that opportunity to develop independent applications and market so that Chi has its own, say, Chi USDT pair, as well as its own demand independent of Quai. And then once that market's developed, the controller, once these sort of steps are done, will recouple with Chi eventually. And then those things apply. Yeah.
Very good. Very, very, very good. Cloners, I see your question. I'm actually going to go back a step because Crypto Daddy had a couple questions. I'm waiting, though, to see if, since Keyshore's typing, if there's any follow-ups here. Nope, doesn't seem like it. He says, makes sense, and thank you. So cheers, Kishore. It's a good line. There's a big update coming through. I think all these are very, very, very important questions to answer. So big salute to you, sir. So let's move to one more question, actually. Okay, one more question about this update, and then I'm going to step back a second. So Kishore is following up and says, as GPU efficiency plateaus post-2030, as assumed, right? What mechanism replaces K-Chi adjustments as the primary balancer of emissions and rewards? So actually, this is not the same theme, but this is more of a future forward question.
K-Chi doesn't do anything at that point. That's basically what you're saying is that the efficiency has stopped changing. So he just gets emitted proportional to hash and doesn't adjust for GPU efficiency anymore. They're saying they won't get more efficient.
And there's no mechanism that replaces it, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the K-Quai will still operate, but the Chi piece will just be fixed. So whatever the cost of emitting a hash is will just stay consistent.
Love thinking about the future. Yeah, it's very trying times that we're in, and technology is definitely moving forward. I share you guys' sentiment about GPU efficiency. I don't know if it'll plateau faster or slower than we anticipate. So we really need to see how AI kicks in, how it supercharges the development of GPUs. But it's very
it's not going to do shit.
AI
is not going to affect it because the principal issue is manufacturing. Knowing how those guys work, I don't really think AI is going to do anything for
So
implant process control.
What if in November, when that alien ship slash meteor slash comet or whatever hits the Earth, and it turns out, and no one dies, it's totally fine, everyone's fine. It turns out it has this new undiscovered metal before that is perfect.
I mean, let's hold on. It's far more plausible that the alien ship is here because they want to get their hands on some Quai, not because they have some newfangled metal. Let's be honest.
It's true. That's actually why they're on their way. I forgot. It's the spoilers for
They want to be early, right?
Yeah, they heard about Quai. They see what we're doing with Chi. They're trying to get in. So you guys are here before then, and take advantage while you can. Love that. All right, so I'm going to back up a step. Really great questions, Kishore. I love the future thought as well. So let's go back to Crypto Daddy. He's asked 2 questions on X, and this one's actually about the tangent cards themselves and whether. So I'll just ask the question. So he says, if you, I, or anyone wanted to dedicate one cell phone, in parentheses, NFC, Wi-Fi capability, so dedicate one cell phone, one set of Quai tangent cards, the Kraken app, would that suffice without the need for cell phone service? I'll ask follow-up in a second, but...
Sorry. He's saying he's basically saying use Tangent with an offline cell phone?
Yeah, basically.
I believe Tangent doesn't have like an air gaps mode. Maybe it does, but if it doesn't, right, you're still gonna have to go online to like broadcast the transaction. I would suggest using a cell phone that you don't like use with many other things. If you want a high degree of confidence and security, kind of just have like a crypto cell phone.
Call it a burner phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep options in mind.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So if we're just like talking about like seed management and like crypto management, there's 2 ways that you. Well, there's 3 ways that you get fucked. Okay. The most obvious to most people is that someone just gets your seed phrase. And that can happen in digital space. That can also happen in meat space, right? Like someone can find your seed, or maybe your seed wasn't well backed up in many diverse locations, and there's a fire like there was in California, and your seed just gets burnt up, and then like you lose your crypto that way. So there's like this physical attack against your seed phrase, or an attack against your seed phrase. And then in the digital space, it's like, okay, my computer got compromised and they like pulled my seed file. Okay. So there's that. And then there's the attack of someone compromises your device and then they get you to sign a message you don't intend to sign. Now, hardware wallets are supposed to prevent this because they basically confirm transactions off chain. But the thing is, most hardware wallets, pretty much everyone except for the latest one, doesn't actually let you confirm complex transactions. They only let you confirm basic transfers. So if you sign a message that's interacting with a smart contract, there's this data payload. And if you don't confirm exactly what that data payload is, you could be signing a message to what you think the right contract is because you checked the address. But because you didn't check the payload, they can still take all your money. So the hardware wallets sort of only give you a guarantee for simple transactions, assuming that the computer that you're using to sign with that wallet is compromised in some way. So basically, like we'll categorize that as not that I got your seed phrase, but I got you to sign a message you didn't intend to sign. And then what would be the third scenario here? Well, anyway, suffice it to say, like it's like seed phrase or sign a message you didn't intend to sign. Those are like the two sort of things that like happen. So, right, with the lattice one, like we spent a lot of time trying to deal with the second because we knew that that was going to be more important if you're dealing with more complicated contracts and DeFi. So that's why the lattice one does that. What Tangent does for you is it pulls the seeds offline, but you're still confirming what you're signing on the phone. So you still have some risk on the phone if it's like a complicated transaction to like trust the phone that you're actually signing what you need to sign. So you still want to take some diligence in not using that with a device that you think could like have high compromise likelihood, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. That's perfect. Yeah, well said.
So like they can't ever like own you when your cards aren't touching the device. But if your device gets compromised and then you touch the card to the device, it can still get you to sign something you didn't mean to sign because the card doesn't like have a screen on it that lets you verify exactly what you're signing. So save for like a lattice one and diligently like checking what the lattice one displays you every time you sign a message. No matter what other solution you're using, if it's Trezor, Ledger, or Tantrum, there's still an attack surface associated with the device in which you're using it. So you still want to like have purpose-built devices for interacting with like large amounts of crypto. You can put like hot crypto on devices you use every day, but it should only be amounts that like you functionally don't care about. And if you care about them, like you should move it, into a wallet that's cold, and you only access that through a device that you think that you only use for that type of activity. So what I would recommend people do is like a practical recommendation is if you have crypto, you should have like a profile for each like crypto you deal in. So you should have a separate device. So maybe that's like a computer, and then for each type of crypto you're holding, you should have a separate profile. So if you have like a PC, or like a Linux box or a Mac, you can create many profiles. If you're going to hold many cryptos in volume by yourself, I would create like a Quai profile and a Bitcoin profile and a Caspa profile. And then I would only use each one of those profiles for each one of those things. So then what'll happen is if like, say, Caspa like has a bad release and it has malware in it, it only compromises potentially the Caspa profile. It doesn't compromise the other ones. So you're segmenting it by like the software, by the profile.
Very wise words there. Great OPSEC. And I really appreciate that perspective. At some point,
and you can get some degree of this too with like browsers. Now, like I'm making a different set of assumptions about like Chrome being secure, but under the tenet that like the Chrome sandbox is secure, using different profiles in Chrome helps as well. So if like you download an extension and it's like, Phantom, maybe you put Phantom in a different profile than Pelagus, than, MetaMask. And if you do that, there's like a degree of protection yet as well. But the better degree of protection is to do user profiles on the OS.
What I was going to say was there comes a point in everyone's crypto journey where they start evolving their OPSEC. And I think what you just laid down there is the perfect roadmap of how to get to the top tier, how to do it at the highest level. So really well said. I really appreciate that.
Well, and then I'll say one other thing too, is even like isolating accounts helps. So when you like interact online in an account ledger, when you sign something, you're signing it from a given account. So if I'm going to go and like interact with a DApp, and I'm like trusting that DApp at some level about like what messages they're trying to get me to sign, and I might end up getting phished on the URL, or maybe like there's malware in their system, whatever it may be. But I'm still only giving permission to an account that I'm connecting. So even within a single wallet of Pelagus, if you're going to interact with like dApps, you should have like your dApp sort of like account. And it should only be holding sort of as much money or NFTs or whatever it is as like you kind of want to risk interacting with that dApp. And then you should still have like a second account, which is kind of like your savings account. You're thinking of it as like checking and savings. Like I'll connect my checking account to things, but it's much more rare that I connect my savings account. So then what will end up happening, as long as I manage the balance of my checking account, if one of these things I interact with is nefarious, they're only going to be able to drain me from my checking account balance, not my savings account balance. But if I just have one account with all the shit in it, and then I interact with one bad dApp, they're going to be able to take everything out of that account.
Yeah, love that. It's really great. It's really great. So really quick, for expand, I want to mention it's really great questions so far. We at the beginning of this AMA, we talked about the update and some of the game theory behind the controller design, as well as miner incentives. So make sure if you need expanded answers, go back, check that out. I have one question about Kraken, and then we're going to actually move on to LMTs for the remainder of this AMA. So Crypto Daddy asked if you were making an educated guess, and this is all speculative. I want to preface this question by saying this is speculative. But if you're making an educated guess, what pairings do you think Quai will be matched up with initially on Kraken? I'm thinking about making a deposit today to have some dry powder ready. He asked if he can deposit some USD and convert it later to whatever asset he's paired with. He's just trying to plan ahead, so when it's time for Quai to launch, he can pull the trigger. So can we provide any preliminary educated guess on what we're going to be matched up with on Kraken?
Yeah, I would anticipate a USD and a Euro pair.
Correct. Exactly. Makes the most sense too when you think about it, guys. Dry powder is typically in those pairings. So if you didn't check it out, we just formally and publicly announced our approval for crypto assets under the EU regulations, MiCA. I think it was last week. And so that is a big news. It's a big deal. There's a reason why we're mentioning that. And guys, as you know, we're on the Kraken roadmap. And of course, we're hoping and working towards making sure that's happening sooner rather than later. So big shout out to their team and everyone we're working with over there. And thanks again for that question, Crypto Daddy. Let's shift gears. Let's move over to LMTs. This is one of my favorite things. This is actually one of the reasons why I ended up at
Quai. Just to kind of expand on that, right? If we didn't have that MiCA, when the listing happens, it would be geo restricted, and anyone in the EU wouldn't be able to participate. So with MiCA, it means that the EU does get to participate, which is also why there's going to be that Euro pair.
Big deal. Party in Europe. All of our Europeans are jumping for joy right now, I'm sure. Awesome. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I'm going to start broadly, and then we're going to get a little bit more granular. So Cloners asks, what is the plan to grow demand for bonds and Quai and G? So what's the plan to grow demand for those LMTs?
Yeah, there's like a behind the scenes discussions with capital providers and market makers to come in and buy and make that market. Some of that will be done in terms of just making sure there's sufficient liquidity by the foundation. But in terms of like market, it's capital providing and market makers.
There's also, I'll add in an additional significant marketing push that we're going to be rolling out. Not only in content, but behind the scenes conversations with interested parties. Tokenized yield on proof of work has never been done before. It's the first form of this, and happy to instantiate it. But the fact is that this makes a lot of people very interested, especially the first mover types, that they see this, perfect blend of proof of work with tokenized yield and understand the opportunity. So a lot going on behind the scenes on this front. This is something I'm very, very vested in. It's one of the main drivers for me joining and also finding and discovering and understanding the potential of Quai. That and of course Chi. So let's go a little bit more granular on LMTs here. So a couple of additional questions. Are there any plans for layering derivatives on top of LMTs, such as futures, options that are linked to energy output or just mining reward volatility?
Sorry, one more time. That was too long.
No worries. Yeah. Are there any plans for layering, derivatives on top of LMTs, so like futures or options?
Yeah, I mean, that's like not necessarily us that would be doing that. I think the lithium guys are interested in making derivatives, but for derivatives to work, you still like the market needs to become more liquid first. So, I think that's going to be the focus initially before sort of derivative baskets start being named.
Also add in, we have a grants program that you can check out and participate in. And so if you are considering building on top of LMTs and utilizing LMTs as the money Lego that they really truly are, definitely keep us in the loop with what you're building, make some noise. There's the grants program as well, but that's really the last step. Development is really the first step, and then making it known to us in the community. So check that out. Again, if you want to build it, we have ways to help you. The second question is, how can Lithium Protocol handle potential forks and reorgs on the Quai Network, affecting the state of locked rewards or issued LMTs? It's a good question.
Sorry, what? One more time?
Yeah. How can Lithium handle forks or reorgs that happen on Quai that would affect the state of the locked rewards of the LMTs?
Oh, I mean, that doesn't matter, right?
So doesn't PoW kind of just naturally handle most of this?
No, I mean the state. Oh, it's a smart contract, right? So like the state of the smart contract is either in like state A or state B. So it's downstream of consensus. So they don't have to like think about any of this.
That's good. That's awesome.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a non-factor. It's the best answer, really. Can LMTs be composable within other DeFi protocols on Quai for lending, yield farming, collateralization, or collateralized loans without compromising their lockup guarantees? So can this be composable? Can these be money Legos?
Yeah. So they're both composable and fractionalizable. I don't think it's a good idea to fractionalize them at this point, but I'm sure somebody will try. If you fractionalize it, it'll turn into what looks kind of like an ERC20 type situation. But yeah, all those things are true. Initially, right, we're trying to get greater liquidity, which is we kind of want to reduce the amount of fractionalization. We're kind of trying to push everything into a bucket, not divide them into more.
Right. Yeah, and to add as well on top of that, that's kind of the whole point. We want to create these liquidity black holes, and the composability of LMTs is one of the most, I think, interesting aspects of it that creates the most opportunities. We don't want to have Lego on top of Lego on top of Lego on top of a Lego scenario that we can't stop people from doing that. But yeah, finding a use case, finding, borrow lend, for instance, and utilizing LMTs in those markets is definitely top of mind. Actively working on this, and something I haven't been able to reveal to you guys in the community yet. But we are very much aware of the the possibilities that are now available because of that. Very much how LSTs make up the backbone of DeFi in Ethereum and broadly other ecosystems. Think about it like that. But don't fractalize them. Actually, can I ask what you mean by you run into like an ERC20 situation by fractalizing them? What does that mean exactly? Is there just additional risk or um, smart contract risk or?
Well, so like no, I mean you can fractionalize it, but the problem is you like if depending on how you do so like the the way you want to do fractionalization, I could take a single bond and I could fractionalize it, but the problem is having an ERC20 against like a single bonded asset means there might not be like good liquidity in that fractionalization. Like you can do it, but your liquidity is going to be different because like this bond's ERC20 is different than that bond's ERC20. So it's not like a tremendous tool, right? You know, at the end of the day, like I guess if you stay till duration, that's fine because like you'll get your piece of bond, but the tradability of those like fractions is going to make the system worse, not better, because there's going to be so many like micro markets. The thing that we've been trying to do with lithium is get it to look like one macro market by using adjusted APY as like a unifying sort of mechanism. So like that unifying mechanism basically makes it so that you know when I look at a market, I'm sort of seeing like a degree of equivalency amongst bonds, and then if you fractionalize it, you're creating like more tokens that have less equivalency. So like it's doable. I just don't know if it's like a good idea from like a market perspective.
Right.
It's all I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, that tracks. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that answer too. That's crystal clear for me. And yeah, that makes perfect sense. Start getting in the weeds of which one's liquid and which one's not. Okay. Let's see. Yes, you should watch them troll Caspa. It's fun. Caspa's good people, but you know, we have different technology and we have our own reasons why it's rocking and rolling. It's doing its thing. Let's see. I was thinking along the lines, how about a kipper tip during live video streaming? Yep, we're actually pretty deep on that. One of the coolest things, I'll talk on this for a second, since I've been doing a lot of things with Kipper. One of the major, PMFs that we've already found is obviously giveaways or things that happen directly through X. And so I think part of the broader long-term roadmap is ultimately to streamline the ability to do that, especially on streams, but also to like aggregate or otherwise simplify the process while you're in a space as well, rather than going into individual profiles and having to tip that way. Because this is where the clear attraction of Kipper really is in spaces, part of giveaways, rewarding people for showing up. They say something you like, you tip them, something that's funny, some great knowledge, some good alpha, you tip them, right? So all that really does make sense. And, appreciate that suggestion, Kishore. We're actually going to be opening up an avenue for people to provide suggestions soon. As well as we already have, a bug report, like a feedback form. We want to involve the community more broadly and more directly in assisting with this. So I really appreciate that comment there. So we're over time, past 12. I've got one more question here. After that, we're going to call it. So I want to thank everyone for showing up again. If you're on X, appreciate you. Make sure you like, make sure you retweet. Talk about this space broadly, guys. Don't forget, we have Tangem wallets and pre-sale. They'll be going live pretty soon, and it's a limited stock only. Consider it the first edition, limited edition of Quai and Tangem's. Beautiful, beautiful partnership. You're in early. They're still available. They won't be. Make sure you get yours. So last question here, Dr. K. Would you agree with this? So this is, before I go into it, this is a Caspa question. So would you agree with this? Caspa uses a block per second approach to reduce latency, but since each block still carries full transaction data and maintains target difficulty, it can lead to higher bandwidth usage and orphan rates under a heavy load. In contrast,
Yes.
so you would agree with that. In contrast,
Yes. Well, I would actually add one thing. It's state processing has a complexity of n squared as well. So like the width of the DAG squared. So it's a lot more computationally complex.
yeah, so
Which is also why they can't do the EVM in the L1. Which I pointed out like 2 years ago, and everyone's like, "No, we can do smart contracts." I'm like, "No, you can't." And now they're like, "No, we're going to do it in the L2." I'm like, "Okay." And then they're now trying to figure out in the L2 if you want a high degree of composability, it still is going to have a problem sort of interfacing with the L1 because of this ordering and complexity problem.
Amazing, yeah. There's that term again, that the nomenclature I'm viscerally allergic to. L2, L3, L15, L29, fucking L's.
Yeah.
You know why they call them L's, right? Because they're L's, dude. Yeah, exactly. As much as I like to shit on them.
I mean, if you go back, like I kind of did this review on Caspa, and that was kind of the first time Shy interacted with me. And there's like a thread somewhere. I'm like, yeah, you guys can't do smart contracts in the L1. And like, I got him to the point. He's like, oh yeah, like we got to do them in the L2. I'm like, that's literally what I said in the video. But he's like, this thing's full of lies because it says Caspa can't do smart contracts. I'm like, okay. Like, he got to the point that yes, it's an L2 thing. I'm going to still say that Caspa doesn't do smart contracts.
That's why I love this stack. That's why I love Quai. You guys thought through everything, and throughput is just through sharding, right? Like we don't need L2, L3, L15. I think actually, so a little bit of backstory. I'll jump into the point, but I started in Ethereum. Most of my knowledge started there. Obviously, actually started with Bitcoin, but moved to Ethereum because that was like where I found work at the time. And the whole concept was, like Ethereum's good if they use L2s because it helps businesses stand up their own chains. And like what I'm really getting at is like the rationalization of needing, additional scaling architecture because the original design was antiquated and just out of date. To me, it's hilarious. The marketing is amazing, right? Like, it's quite literally taking a bad facet and then explaining how it's good, right? Like, oh, L2s are actually great. Sure, they centralize. Sure, they're required to make it actually contemporary in terms of speed and ability to use it and, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a good thing, right? Like that to me is just brilliant marketing, right? Like it's really great. Very funny because at the time I bought all of it, and obviously, now I'm a little bit more mature and a little bit more, let's just say seasoned. Just respect the fact that they made that pivot away from sharding and then explained it away by saying, no, this is good. This is actually how it was supposed to be. This is good for everybody. Smart.
Well, the funny thing that is interesting about all of this is there's really good analogies in history. In proof of work and proof of stake, like going from gold to notes that are quote unquote backed by gold, going to just pure fiat was the current financial system's transition from proof of work to proof of stake. It's almost a perfect analogy. There's another analogy here that works very well when we talk about L1s versus L2s and public chains versus private chains, which was in the mid to late 90s. There were debates about internet versus intranet.
Right.
And a lot of people were saying that the internet's cool and all, but what's really going to be the driving force of the entire world is intranets, intercompany, like permissioned networks that are firewalled from the outside world. And like, that's going to be the killer use case. And so like, you're seeing the same argument being made between L1s and L2s that the L1s are going to be better. It's just listening to the same argument as internet versus intranet. And at some point it's become emergently obvious that That's not going to be the case, because in data systems, it's one thing in terms of like network effects and how useful it is, bounded versus open. But those like characteristics become more pronounced with value, not less. So if the information version of the networks values the internet over the intranet, certainly the value versions of these networks will 100% value the internet over the intranet, which means you're going to want L1s, and you're going to want them to be public.
Right. Yeah.
So, it's like an obvious statement.
I love how like history always reveals the truth at the end. And to that debate, it's so funny that the intranet's basically just all at the end of the day became Slack for internal servers for companies. These companies mostly just use Slack for most of that nowadays. I've seen
it's Slack, that's right. But even then, like Slack isn't it's running on the internet. Like
yeah.
Right. So like no, I mean like it kills me. So okay, crypto's supposed to be a value transfer system. Great. Okay. If we can get there, then you're gonna say the way that I'm gonna maximize the value of my value transfer system is to make it fractured and permissioned. What? Like the fuck? Yeah. Anyway, I mean these things are like just completely antithetical to like the concept of value transfer of money. So I mean, to me, it's either these people are like retarded with a hard R, or they're just marketing it so that they can justify like a grift on like launching it to.
Well, no, yeah, it's all short-term profit mongering. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's like this gets faster and this gets us more money, so we'll do that, and throw away the ethos and the whole idea of the space to begin with. But hey, they allowed them to scale.
I mean, it's kind of.
Breaking up. Is that me or is that you?
There's actually like a constraint on proof of work, which is there's like only so many like work L1.
We're kind of running into signal issues. Hold on. After K coming in, a little staticky. Hold on. I want to hear what you're saying, but just mic check for me.
Sorry, say that again?
There we go. Okay, you're back. You just had interference. It's laggy.
Sorry. Okay, let me say that again. So the interesting thing with proof of work is that the proof of work process like only allows so many proof of work chains to exist, and they can only exist if they're highly differentiated. But with proof of stake, you can effectively have sort of like an infinite number, and they don't have to be sort of differentiated. And I think that the fact that you can like have an infinite number of them that aren't differentiated is going to collapse the value of them entirely. If that makes sense.
It does, yeah. Fragment the liquidity, fragment the attention, fragment the branding. Yeah, it's the main issue they're running into.
Well, but the value of they're not.
Is that me or is that him?
Like have an infinite number of fragments entails that the value goes to zero. So I kind of think there's going to be a renaissance here in proof of work, and we're going to see the proof of stake thing kind of like collapse under its own weight, and all that's going to be left are the proof of work chains.
I haven't been following as closely as I used to, but the Ethereum ecosystem is actually thinking about moving away from the EVM also. Vitalik did a thing on Bankless the other day. I didn't watch all of it, but I saw a clip of them talking about in a perfect world, 10 years from now, they're moving away from the EVM, which I found very interesting. It just, again, they're flying the plane and repairing it and fueling it and building it. In fact, the plane's barely even flying; it's gliding at this point. Right?
Yeah. I mean, they've been shipping opium since day one, right?
Right. And their opium is good. After a while it wears off, and there's diminishing returns in trying to continue to use that opium, as I ran into. But the
Well, I mean, the most telling thing that I saw about ETH guys was this year at ETH Denver. I did a survey of companies that had like launched recently at ETH Denver, and not a single one of them was on the main chain. It's like the main chain is too expensive, and the fees are too inconsistent to have anyone want to build anything on it. So they're like, yeah, we're Ethereum, we're on optimism.
Well, what the
Yeah, we're Ethereum, we're on Arbitrum.
What the behind the
and then you had Uniswap, which was like the largest, most used, most price insensitive application on Ethereum, launching their own chain.
Don't forget when DYDX ran away and left.
Yeah. So like, at the end of the day, like, well, and then the other thing that like hurts them is that they have this like L2 thing, which gives people that are obviously L1 competitors the ability to say, no, we're an L2, so like we're your friend. And then like everyone to cognitively buy it when it's like patently untrue for the economics around the L1. So it's
It's
wild.
It's a house of cards. They made some great contributions, but the short term.
So there's something interesting that I saw is there were all these like proof of stake L2s, and they were like talking about how much revenue. I think it's because the Story protocol guy quit, and they're like, Story is valued at $200 million, but they only do like $23 a day in like revenue.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right. I actually did a calculation, and then someone like made this list, and they put up like 12 of the bigger, more recent like proof of stake L2s or L1s, and I think the largest like revenue was like 600 a day or something. And I ran a calculation on Quai. I'm pretty sure Quai is over 2,000 a day.
Brand new baby.
So
it's a brand new baby.
No, but I mean, it's better than all of these like L1s that supposedly have the high market caps. But the high market caps are all just manufactured by the VCs. Is, I guess, the point. But there's no real application or usership in another fraction like of a EVM OP stack like L2 or L1.
And bringing it full circle, that's why I really appreciate the genius behind the architectures. Most of it's been thought out from day one. Scaling's already been solved, right, even before launch. And the whole idea of short-term profiting over like ethos, over vision, over integrity is not present. That's why I'm here. So yeah, fucking love that thread. It's really good points.
So here's another one for you. There's like all sorts of analogies. So we go back to like Ethernet and like Ethernet kind of winning the game. You know how an Ethernet sort of like IP address is composed? You have 4, 1 byte number.
Yeah, 68.20
on the network. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, your local is like 127.0.0.1
right.
type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the interesting thing is in Quai, we have, it's not bytes, it's actually nib, but like zones are a nib, regions a nib, and then like prime exists. So in the design of a scalable value network, you have an analogous like IP routing layer, which looks almost exactly like the IP routing layer that you have for the information network.
Yeah. Wow.
right? So
Cool.
they have 4 bytes. We have 3 nibs, but it's the same functional thing.
Yeah, wow, that's super cool. I love the terms too. Obviously, you and I were going back and forth on chits yesterday. If you guys give a chit, you'll go buy Quai.
Did you see my reply?
Yeah, I did. I responded to it this morning with a little fun meme. Yeah, I love that shit, man.
I thought you'd appreciate that stash.
Oh, you know it. I don't have a stash right now, actually. I know we haven't seen.
Oh, well, just because you shaved off the mustache doesn't mean you're going to lose the nickname.
Damn it. That's fine. That's a good one. Well, we're about 20 minutes over. I'm gonna close this out. I want to just double check that any other. Kishore says this is not a question, but he'd love to hear you go off on your inputs on your conversations with the POS academics at the science conference, the proof of stake academics at the science conference at some point. Maybe you want to touch on that for a second before we head out, since we're already over. It doesn't really matter. Any kind of takeaways from the proof of stake guys over at that conference in good old San Fran?
Yeah, I mean, it's collapsed to like a classic academic circle jerk. So academics and the middle out compression algorithm like have a lot to do with each other. And early on, as kind of the academics got involved, because it wasn't purely like academic, it kind of came from this practical set of systems that were getting engineered and deployed. It was more interesting, but now it's just a straight on circle jerk. People were presenting, talking about poisoning addresses, and I literally like wrote a blog on this 8 years ago now, and submitted a issue to Ledger, and they actually updated their firmware because of it.
Ooh,
and that was like one of the talk. I was like, how the fuck is this a talk? Like, seriously, guys. Right? They're like, let me show you that you need to confirm at least 6 forward and trailing bytes of your address. And this is like how much it takes to, poison your address space. And I'm like, okay, guys, literally you're 10 years behind here, and like, this is what's getting presented. This is pretty pathetic.
It's a learning lesson, though.
Yep.
It's a learning lesson there.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, no, I mean, this isn't me grassroots thing, I believe. And then, in 5 years, when the flows of money shift, all the academics are going to be like, yeah, proof of work is the thing. And we're all experts, and we always have been. And we're the strongest advocates for it.
Fucking right. Because, yeah.
Chameleons.
Did you find anyone that was willing to debate or open to debate it? Or were they all just completely locked in, tunnel vision? You'll never change my mind. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, they're locked in tunnel vision right up into the point that like they get a grant to do something, and then they're all like, "Oh, this is amazing." No, there's
funny how
there's definitely a minority of people there, right? That like respected proof of work and proof of work consensus, and right, but that was probably like 5-6% of the attendance, not like anywhere near the majority. So like those people are all cool, and those people have a conversation, and right. But the majority of them were just like proof of stake maxis. And they're like, why are you talking about proof of work? Right, that's antiquated. That doesn't scale. And you're like, okay.
There's a lot of education to do. That's where we need to get you guys in the front lines on. It's really the academics. Let us handle the degens over here on the BDM team. We'll fight those trenches.
Well, but I guess my point is like there's like a narrative, and the narrative's not going to shift until the market shifts. Like the academics never lead; they always follow. It's a misperception of the plebeians to think that academics are the ones that create innovation.
True. Yeah. It's really good those aliens are on their way then to buy some Quai, because then they'll finally follow suit, right? That's awesome. Well,
I mean, like price goes up and there's suddenly like a grant program, like every one of these people would be like, yeah, I love proof of work.
Let's hope so. I'm all for it. I came back. I think a lot of these people are just need the same kind of push, not even just financial, just seeing things evolve the way they naturally will evolve. They'll come back.
So there's actually like a really hard problem that maybe you can help me out with, Christopher.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I need to create a portmanteau of academics and prostitute or whore. And like I'm not figuring out what the portmanteau would be.
Yeah, that's not my area of expertise, but I think we can huddle up. We can we can figure this one out.
We can brainstorm that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they'll do whoever like pays them money to do grants. That's like literally how they operate. So, and then the funny thing is, you can pay them to conclude anything too. They're pretty good at structuring things in such a way that they can always get the outcome they're seeking.
It was pretty cool when I was working with
funding agency desire.
They're all for hire. Yeah, money talks. I had a very limited. I'll keep this short. I produced a little bit with Bankless. I was the original producer on the Green Pill, and at least when they brought it to YouTube and subsequent episodes, and a bunch of Awaki's talks was with collegiate academics at Harvard and other institutions. And I thought it was absolutely funny. It absolutely aligns with what you're saying. Was some of those conversations went into like doing research specifically because grants were there, and they wouldn't have thought of doing said research without the grant being available, et cetera, et cetera. You're totally right. Right, like at the end of the day, even academia is completely swayed by financial incentives, by financial reasons.
Yeah, well, and I mean, like I got my PhD, right, and the reason I chose not to like stay in that domain is because of this. So this isn't like a new discovery I came upon. This is I went to graduate school, and 2 years in, I'm like, okay, I see what this game is. So I still finished my doctorate, but decided not. That's not a game I want to play.
Right. Yeah. It's very smart. It's great foresight.
Yeah.
Let's end it there. Appreciate everyone for coming on out. Again, have this twice a week. This is the AMA with Dr. K. Make sure if you're on Twitter, you like this, you send a repost. Guys, you can buy us in many different exchanges. We're available. The Quai is available on MEXC. It's available on Gate.io. We have Tangible. It's now available. That partnership's official. Go get yours. Limited stock. They are running out. You will see us next on Friday. We'll announce it here first, but we're going to be doing Quai Friday, a founder's fireside. So I feel like some of the candid conversations we're having here today, you're going to get a lot more of that on Friday. And we'll be joined by, of course, Dr. K, Alan, and Jonathan. So we're looking forward to that. As usual, have a great weekend. We're going to have the next one of this on Monday. So if you have any questions for reading over the docs, see anything that strikes your fancy, if you're building a project, you have some great questions that you need answered, specifically technical, let us know. Get those up. Send them over to Kishore. Shoot them in general. And of course, on Monday, we'll get around to answering those. Don't forget, we have the Quai Nation. It is live. It's up and running. Thanks to our partners at Collabland. We have full breakdown how to join, but the easiest way is just to join Kipper.money. You get 20 Quai for signing up, and the check to join Quai Nation, it's just one Quai. So just own one Quai, and you can join. Go to Kipper.money, get yours today. Make sure you download Pelagus and get signed up. I'm Christopher. This is Dr. K. And I'll see you guys in the metaverse. Thanks for joining us today. Y'all take care.